Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back. Hope you guys are having an amazing week. So, as you can tell, the podcast name has changed a little bit. So, I have been doing some thinking, and I know I've said in previous episodes and the episodes last month that I am doing a joint venture with my coach, Tay Daniels, as far as being a part of her licensing for her trademark brand, Breadwinner Energy. So, figured I'd do a little bit of a shift. Now, if you guys know anything about human design, like I am a manifesting generator. So that means I tend to pivot quite a bit so that I keep my materials fresh and keep my brand on point. Because what happens is, and this is true to my human design, is that I get bored if I just do the same thing over and over again. But if I pivot slightly, still talk about the same things, it is so much better for me, and I get so excited to do content. So if you haven't been following on TikTok, I've kind of paused on Instagram because it's a lot. I have two brands that I have several social channels on. So it's a lot. Plus, I'm a full-time mom. So yeah. So my main social media account is on TikTok. So you can go follow me at the Brutal Truth Method. Make sure you guys follow on TikTok because I am going to be posting some juicy stuff. And today's video is pretty fucking juicy. So I decided to turn up the dial a little bit because that's what I do. As far as birth chart, I am a Venus Aries. So yes, I'm very bold and in your fucking face, but I'm also a lover girl too. So, and that could be sometimes a little bit of a hindrance, should I say? So make sure you guys check me out on TikTok. Make sure you follow, subscribe to the show. Make sure you do that because I talk about all the juicy things. So kind of wanted to explain the shift as far as what is to come before we get into today's episode. So mainly I have been approached like with DMs and things like that, and things that are heavy on my heart is to share with you my lived experiences with divorce, motherhood, relationships, just healing, inner child, just toxic shit from the past, from the father wound, and being more of a secure person instead of being such an anxious person. So my mission is really to help women just heal the father wound and to heal their anxious attachment patterns and to be more of a force, to be unapologetic, to be powerful, and to find the healthy relationships that they deserve, to live the life that they want, and to make the money that they want. So those are some of the things that I am helping women in this brand and in my business. And to be partnered with my coach, Tay Daniels, I'm telling you, powerhouse. The community that I'm a part of, all these powerful women in there, like it's nothing that I've ever seen. So that's a little bit on the shift. So make sure you follow on TikTok so you can get all the juicy videos. So let's get into today's episode. I'm going to be really discussing on why you are not attracting the wrong people. So you're not attracting the wrong people. You're choosing them. When it comes to relationships, situations, even networking partnerships or relationships, we don't really attract the wrong people. We choose them. And the reason why we choose them is because of something in our childhood that has either scarred us or really just hurt us in childhood that we haven't done the healing or the work on. I always talk about shadow work. Even today, I do a lot of shadow work every single day because journaling and doing shadow work to make sure that I don't let my anxious pattern, the father wound that I have, interfere with anything that I want to accomplish in my life, that it's not going to stop me or continue to put me in that comfort zone. You all should know being in the comfort zone does not get you success. Success is uncomfortable. Success is scary. You have to fucking take risks. You have to put yourself out there. It's the same way when you're out there looking for a relationship and a partner. It's fucking scary because we all know what dating looks like. It is uncomfortable. It is taking a risk on this person, and it is making sure that you're self-aware that if you see the red flag, you're going to leave. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about differences between what is familiar, what is safe, the common attachment patterns, why we ignore the red flags, and a little bit about the father wound. And I'm going to give you a backstory on that. Okay. So the difference between something that is familiar versus something that is safe. I'm going to do a lot of story times here because my lived experiences really hone in on all these topics. So when we look at relationships that we have with partners, or we look back and say, okay, I'm single, I don't have a partner, I can't seem to find the right one. Why is that? So when you actually start to look back and look at the different people that you have dated throughout the years and see the types of patterns that have shown up, you start to recognize what is familiar. Perfect example. I tend to attract men who are emotionally unavailable. Why is that? Because the pattern of my biological dad is he is emotionally unavailable. He was not present. He wasn't there when I was growing up. He did not help raise me. He was not there when I had different concerts, when I had different events at school. He was not there when I got married. He was not there at the birth of my children. So I tend to attract men that are emotionally unavailable because they haven't done the healing work. Because when things start to get deep, when things start to get intimate, when it requires work and you to show up, they disappear. My biological dad did the same thing. So what I started to find out is that my two relationships post-divorce, or any relationship that I had even pre-marriage, that it was the same outcome with the same people. And so I started kind of recognizing that pattern and said, this is familiar. I can honestly tell you that just looking back and saying, okay, I didn't do too much. I showed up who I was. I never changed who I was. Because usually in the dating scheme, and when we talk to somebody new or we're in a relationship with somebody new, you have to put your best foot forward. But a short time later, that mask comes off. Well, I can tell you, I don't have a mask. I show up as who I am. I'm loud. I have opinions. I'm bold. I tell it like it is. I fucking cuss. I do all that shit. Men seem to fucking love that, I'm, a fierce, just, cussing sailor, right? But it's because there's that fire about me that they seem to like and that they are attracted to. Now, when I started looking at the different patterns of, okay, why do my relationships fail? Where did I go wrong? Is there something wrong with me? There's really nothing wrong with me. It's a familiar pattern of something traumatic that happened in my childhood because my dad wasn't there. So that is the familiar pattern, and you have to hone in and be self-aware of what your patterns are, especially if your relationships are not working out, if partnerships are not working out, if, relationships with family are not working out. You have to look at where is the root and where is the source of this, okay? And shadow work is very important because when you don't work on the shit that you're supposed to be healing, that shit is going to be mirrored to you from different faces, different people, different relationships, and it's going to continue to fucking haunt you until you face it and work on it. Shadow work is very important, because there is just something that you need to do to love your inner child and give your inner child exactly what they need, okay? So when it comes to things that are familiar, well, how do we know that it's safe? I can tell you what safety feels like, because the first time in my life, and I am 48 years old, okay? I may not look like I'm 48. I had a patient tell me, a while back that I looked like I was I was like in my 20s. I'm like, no, I got wrinkles, man, and I got bags under my eyes. I do not look like I'm 20. But I can tell you, safety feels foreign. Safety, when somebody gives you safety, you are triggered and the panic alarms go off, especially if you are a person that is not used to feeling safe around a man. The panic button is going to go off. All the triggers are going to go off. You are going to be anxious as fuck. It is going to be uncomfortable. It is going to feel like, oh my God, what the fuck? It is going to just rattle your nervous system because you don't know what to do. When you have not experienced healthy love, safety feels like a foreign thing. Like you're going to ask him, what the fuck are you doing? Or you're going to ask her, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you being this way? Because you don't know what it feels like to feel safe and have calm and peace in your brain that's not running at 10,000 miles an hour. There was one relationship that actually made me feel this way. And it was my most recent relationship that ended. When I had met this person, I did not feel butterflies at all. I felt no butterflies because I know that when I felt butterflies with somebody else, it never worked. This person, I did not feel butterflies. You know what I felt? Calm. I felt like this is really strange. This is really weird. I don't know what to take of this. Like, why do I feel uncomfortable? Why do I feel like this is just triggering the fuck out of me? Why do I feel this way? It's because it was peaceful. It's because it was safe. It's because my brain wasn't overthinking a million things. It's because he provided that safety to me. And normally, if somebody were to do that, I'm going to be like, oh, no. This is not good. I don't want to fucking do this. So we tend to not react with things that feel familiar, but when things feel safe and there is a safety and there's no danger behind it or no red flags behind it, it's going to feel foreign and it's going to be triggering as fuck. So it's up to you to make sure that you are self-aware and do that shadow work so that you know the difference. Now, attachment styles play into this too. You may be anxious or you may be avoidant. Now, I have a very anxious attachment style, which I've worked to make more secure. Of course, the shadow work and the inner child work does help with that because inner work is very important because I'm not going to let what happened to me as a child ruin what I'm trying to build as an adult. Okay. Most of these men that I have dated over the years were very avoidant. All of them. My biological dad is avoidant. Okay. My prior relationship, avoidant. And a little bit dismissive as well. Because they have not healed from who hurt them and who broke them. Because if they did, they would be putting in the work and he would have just seen me on a deeper level. And I probably wouldn't be talking about this right now, right? So anxious, you overthink, you overtext, you double text, you call a million times and say, okay, is he mad at me? Is he with somebody else? Oh my God, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Very, very anxious, and you tend to pull that person even tighter when they're desperately trying to let go. Versus avoidant, where you push all those things away. You're like, safety feels, it's danger zone. I see red. I don't want to deal with this. Closeness is too much. Love, no. And that's what happens. But I tend to help more women who have those anxious attachment patterns, who don't know what safety feels like because it's fucking foreign. Red flags, yeah. As women, we ignore them. We ignore them to the extent because we think we can change people, that it'll get better over time, that it will just work itself out, and it never does. What you have to remember is that people reveal the red flags right in the beginning. Like they're there on display, and that person may be on their best behavior, but they reveal it right then and there. And sometimes it could take a little bit before the mask falls off and you're like, holy shit. But self-awareness and shadow work are two most important things that you have to do to recognize red flags. Being self-aware is number one. Making sure that, hey, well, this doesn't feel comfortable. So you have to ask yourself, well, how do I feel about this after this person said that, or their action, or whatever the case is? I can tell you my ex-husband had a lot of red flags. A lot. Okay? And I ignored every single one of them. Even my best friend of 25 years saw the red flags, and I chose to ignore it. And lo and behold, she was right, because those red flags were so just in my face after 5 years of marriage. And even though it was there a lot earlier, and I just ignored. So you have to be self-aware when it comes to red flags, because we can't change people. We can't change who they are. People don't change unless something triggers them to change because they don't like what they see in themselves. Okay. Now, the father wound. I have said over and over that I do have the father wound. The reason that I say the father wound is because my biological dad was not present when I was growing up. He was never there. He did not have, any kind of contact with me. He was not there to help my mother raise me. He never was there on my birthday. He never called. No birthday card, no birthday present, no Christmas present, nothing. He was just absent and not there. Okay. He's very avoidant, and he was not present while I was growing up. And I always thought as a child that it was something to do with me, that he didn't like me, or that something that my mother said to him, triggered this, which was none of those things really. What it is that I am thinking that he probably has shame and guilt and regret. And one thing that you never want to do is live with any regrets. It had scarred me for life, that it had changed the way that I see relationships. And every relationship that I ever had with a man, or even friendships with men, always suffered because I was looking for some kind of validation, to be accepted, to be loved, to just feel like I was wanted, which I had never felt that I was wanted ever in my life, except for my prior relationship, that I had no control when it ended, because that other person ended it because he could not meet me where I was at. So I lived with the father wound for the longest time, until I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to suffer in relationships anymore. I don't want to suffer anymore, because that's what he did to me. And it's stopping me from living the life that I want. It is stopping me from pursuing the relationships that I want. It is stopping me from making the money that I want. So that's where shadow work is so important. And I can honestly say, I forgive him. And that is something hard to do, because a lot of people won't say that. I forgive him. I forgive the men that I had, the relationships with post-divorce. I forgive them. I forgive everybody else, but I never forget. And it is one thing to struggle, because when you have the father wound, you will struggle in relationships. You will struggle with relationships with people. You will struggle with partnerships with people, because there's that validation and acceptance that you are so desperately trying to get. And that's why the overthinking comes, and thinking that there's something wrong with you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You can't let that situation continue to mirror itself in other people. You have to know when to break the generational curse and say, no, I'm not putting up with this. That's why boundaries for yourself are so important. And that's why I help a lot of women just try to heal this father wound and to heal their attachment patterns as far as being very anxious, so that you don't hold back on what you want in life. You don't hold back on the relationships that you deserve. You don't hold back on the money that you want to fucking make, and just be more of a powerful woman. Okay. So we have to know, just to wrap this up, the difference what feels familiar and what feels safe, because we cannot go back to what's familiar. Familiar keeps us stuck. It keeps us in the comfort zone. And in comfort zone, there is never any growth. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth fucking sucks because you have to do the hard things. As far as attachment patterns, you have to learn exactly what triggers your attachment style. What triggers the pattern on why you have to overthink, why you have to double text, why you have to call them a million times, why you ask them, oh, you don't love me anymore because you didn't talk to me. And the red flags, you have to be self-aware. You have to be self-aware on, okay, this person did this. This is not good. This is a deal breaker for me. Okay. And when things are a deal breaker, you have to end those relationships. Like, you have to go, because it doesn't get better. I'm a prime example of it. It does not get better. As far as the father wound, if you have the father wound, if they were absent, and you have to take a really deep dive and do some really deep work on, okay, as far as all my relationships, is this related to that? Did my father abandon me just like all these other people have in my life? And you have to start at the root and the core of why your relationships fail. Okay. I know I did a lot of blabbling, but I think I've made some really good points as far as why we're not attracting the wrong people. We just choose them. We choose them because of just the past inner child, just, traumatic things that have happened to us. The way that we choose people in relationships, choose partnerships, the way we choose to interact with family and friends and things like that. So you have to be self-aware, and you have to recognize all those patterns so that you don't continue and you can break these patterns. So hopefully this episode was really helpful. So like I said, make sure you guys follow along on TikTok, because I do put out videos on these types of topics and show you how you can live a better life, choose healthier partners, and just be a powerful, fucking successful woman. So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will chat with you guys in the next episode.